Today, I'm going to show you how to achieve a realistic chipped paint effect.
Who's on that next level, next level, next level? Who's on that next level, next level, next level? Who's on that next level, this one for the rebels? Yeah. Who's on that next level, ready to paint? They come around and the veterans stay. Keep talking in that devilish way, brother, spray your hair black like I'm Kelly Boucher. You wanksters don't know about the gangster gumbo. My man got a bunch of to put on your gloves, yo. Whatever you do, just keep it clutch, or else you get the ancient Chinese technique of the book. May I always keep it icy, keep my tip clean, got the high water beside me. I'm on the next level, finger on the trigger, ready to deliver the head of a Kelly's Rilla. Who's on the next level, this one for the rebels? Who's on the next level, strictly for the devils? Next level, listen up or listen in, yeah. Next level, give a fuck or pack it in, aye. Who's on the next level, yeah, yeah. Who's on the next level, yeah, yeah.
Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days here in the Beats Lab in Hollywood, California. We're doing it again. Today, we're coming back to Commander Nemo, old schooler from Privateer Press, one of our sponsors, and we're going to explore some 3D realism in the chipped paint arena. This is similar to some of our other tutorials on 3D scratches. That's a good reference point. But what we're trying to achieve here is the effect that there was a coat of paint that has been chipped away, exposing whatever's below it. During the course of this video, I'll explore it with metal and with the secondary color. I would say one of the things that's also going to make this interesting is we're doing it with white paint. We're going to be using Privateer Press, Secret Weapon Miniatures, and now SlowFuseGaming.com products in this video, so definitely check the links in the description box below. Roll call. I'm going to shout out a couple of clutch individuals over on Patreon. This week we got Chuck, Claudius, and Justin. You guys came in clutch. I cannot do it without you. It is indeed how I keep the lights on. Thank you guys. Anyway, let's do it. Here he is, Commander Nemo, looking fresh after last week's video. Painting white is secretly easy. Right out the gate, SlowFuseGaming.com, new Bombwick Kalinsky Sables, Bogren Brown from Formula P3, and Mediocre. These are both from the Grimkin line. Now, we're gonna just jump right into it. We're gonna sketch out these three-dimensional scratches. We're just gonna draw it down here, a little triangle pattern, trying to keep them kind of geometric, less circular. It makes it easier to sketch in shadows and highlights. So I like to do that right there, where I create a little chip and then a little tiny chip on top of it. We're just doing 3 on this side of the vent here, but I will be going kind of crazy on these. So now we're gonna grab Thomar Black. We're going to grab that Kalinsky Sable, that 00, and we are going to sketch a skinny ass line to establish super contrast. Very important that these lines you're about to draw in are very crisp. It establishes the border and the framework for the realism here. So we are getting a nice strong line on the tops of these chips, which is where the shadow is going to cast downward. This is the razor edge of the shadow. We will have to blend it in a more subtle transition to accentuate the effect. But for now, we have a really good border established and we're maximizing contrast here. Now we're going to take some of that Thomar Black, mix it in a little bit with that Bogren Brown, and subtly glaze a fuzzier shadow in along the inner line there between the brown and the black. Give it a nice little shade there, a little bit of darkness. Absolutely easy as long as you have the right brush for the job. Definitely check out these Bombwicks, guys. This 00 is getting it done for me right now. All right, I like what I'm looking at. Solid work here. We're just going to subtly glaze in a little bit more shade, thus maximizing that realism. The actual shadow is being cast here. I normally don't care about shadows and lights, but when you're doing an effect like this, a realistic chipping effect, you gotta think about it. Now we're gonna grab that Mediocre and glaze some in at the bottom. Give us a little bit of a transition to where it would be brighter toward the bottom. We are going to have to do more than this, but I already gives you a nice transition. I already like what I'm seeing here. It makes it interesting, if anything else, because you know I do like more of a comic book effect. It also breaks up the chipping, makes it look possibly like it's rust, a little bit more realistic. And it's real easy. Look at that. Boom. Super interesting. Feeling that. We're going to let it dry. We're going to introduce a little bit more so it's a little bit brighter. You can go as crazy as you want, adding yellows and everything to this. But the glaze will dry down. It's a little vibrant right now, but it is super thin. And when it dries, it will be a little bit more muted, but not too much more. Since we have all these browns on the palette, like the Bogren brown, we're gonna keep it real wet, real juicy. And we're gonna just accentuate some of the nuts and some of the bolts up here. We're gonna do some bonus work right now, trying to establish a little bit more weathering around them nuts. Always gotta pin wash them nuts. And we're gonna drag a little bit of a streak downward, giving us a little bit of an interesting effect here. I will be going crazy on these things, these arm devices, shoulder stuff. There we go, looking good. That's simple, guys. You can get a lot of work done if you work in the glaze world, real thin, multiple coats. Booyah. We're gonna go to Merrill White P3 formula. And now we're gonna make these scratches look real, these chips look real. We're gonna carve a very rigid line on the white side on the bottom of these chips, as razor edge as you can get. And it's gonna take a few coats because you need that white to be as built up as possible so that you can see it over this sort of off-white. You're always gonna get more precision and you're always gonna get a more vibrant effect with the paintbrush. You can see right here, second pass, we're building that white in under the chip and it's giving you instantaneously a three-dimensional effect because that is what the light is hitting. As it's shining down, it's catching that inner edge of that chip and that sells the effect. Work it in as many times as you need to make sure that white is pronounced. But overall, it's going to be subtle and you're going to have to look at it closely. Sort of like far from good, look from far. From a distance, it's not easy to see, but as people look at your miniature and they appreciate it, it's going to look its best. We're going to come back in. I decided I want a little bit more of a highlight with a little bit of yellow. Just grab your first yellow, mix it in with that mediocre. Bow. All right, bonus tip. Soft body black secret weapon miniatures. We're gonna whip this out and we're gonna wash this intake manifold device, this unit. I'm not a scientist, I don't know what this is, because I wanna see how it looks with the full effect. I wanna sell that realism, but not too real, you know what I'm saying? So we're just gonna give it a nice thin ring of soft body black. Make sure it tints the metal, gives us a nice border, make sure it finds its way into that turbo fan, doing its best. You can take this and you can go as far with it as you want. I've actually switched brushes. I've gone up in size to make this easier. I'm not using the 00 anymore, like what I'm looking at. But check this out. You can take this soft body black and you can cut it in on those lines. Like you can see those dividing lines between the front of the manifold and the rest of it. And we can even come into these nuts and wash them nuts again with a little bit of soft body black underneath the nut to give it some dimension in the shadow. Same deal right here. You can grab white and then you can paint them nuts, maximizing the contrast. Contrast is easy. Make bright things brighter and dark things darker. We just did both. This is how you stay busy in the Beats Lab. I have all these colors out anyway, guys, so we're gonna make all that contrast. We're gonna maximize the effects here. And you notice a lot of what we're doing right now is exactly what we did inside that chip. A 2D effect designed to achieve a 3D effect is not much different than doing it on a 3D surface. So we're just gonna add a little bit of highlighting here on this thing. I don't know what that is. Just wanna use the paints I have, stay busy, maximize my time, because everyone has limited time when they hobby. All right, engine metal, secret weapon miniatures. This is part of the new 15. This is a solid metal. It's very warm, but it's also bright. We're gonna use this to add a quick little highlight on this intake right here, just on the lip. We're gonna just drag it around using our 00 bomb wick from slowfusegaming.com. Drag a nice edge highlight in, and look at that. Super simple, but super effective. Now that my chipping is dried out and it's looking good, and I can see how it looks compared to the rest of the weathering tones, I can now feel satisfied that I really like that look. I prefer it this way with these undertones of browns and rusts, but some people really want to work the metallics. So I want to drag some metals in up from that vent. So now that we have that engine metal still, let's glaze it out. Let's add a little water, maybe a little medium, depending on what you got in your Beats Lab, but real thin. We're gonna do a super thin coat total glaze. And we're gonna just glaze this engine metal directly over the brown. We're not gonna completely erase it, but we are gonna absolutely transform it into metal. And it's gonna draw its common link from the metal on that vet. It's gonna have contrast and it's gonna complement. So if you like the metal, here's a really fun way to do it to where it isn't just a flat metal surface. I'm not as big a fan of it, but some people are. Figured I'd just show you here today. All right, we're gonna take black again and we're gonna reinforce that razor edge highlight, because with metal, it's more monochromatic, so you're gonna have to lean heavier on your black to establish that border, because you're not gonna get as much out of the highlights. So we're just sharpening it up, adding a little bit more aggressive shadowing here, you know what I'm saying, making it razor sharp. We're gonna add some tails to the edges of these scratches to make them more dynamic, more interesting right there. Real simple. All day, every day. But you can choose which effect you like more. It's entirely up to you guys. My man Commander Nemo is coming out good. I do plan on taking this scratch formula, these chips, to a lot of places on the white here. I'm gonna just go crazy, guys. Anyway, thanks for checking it out. Play on, players.